We be live. Hi everyone.
Hello.
I see Music Guy and D in the live chat. We have a lot of Patreon questions today. So first we're gonna go through the Patreon questions, and then we're gonna go through the live chat questions. Again, if you are not a patron, consider becoming a patron. That means that your questions will get answered first. They get priority, and they will definitely get answered. Also, it means that if you're not here live with us and you can't make it live, then you get to send your questions ahead of time, and we will make sure we answer it live during when we go live. So again, link to our Patreon account in the description. If you get priority, you also get our blasphemous art. Um, for the uncensored version of our blasphemous art as a Patreon, and yeah, but link in the description, and you also support the show, which is really helpful for us to grow, right? Oh yeah,
Yes.
because of the patrons, we get to hire like a whole team that let us grow faster. So that's really great.
If it wasn't for
Before we
patrons, we wouldn't be able to do what we do. And so if you
Yes.
like what we do, if we bring some value or enjoyment, quality to your life, please consider
Mhm.
supporting our Patreon. You can get all of these perks for as little as $1 a month.
Mhm.
Really helps us. And if you want us to get even better,
Mhm. Mhm.
that's one great way to help us do that. So
Right.
yeah.
So we have a lot of Patreon questions, but before we go to the Patreon questions, Susie really quickly wanted to mention something, right?
Yes. So guys, we have some bad news. Many people are already aware, but Atheist Republic's Twitter account got suspended. Fully suspended. The largest atheist centered Twitter account on the website has been suspended. Now, this we'll get into it in more detail on the news show in 2 days. Basically, it was because of provably false copyright claims. They exploited Twitter system to just nuke our whole account. And so at this point, what we need is help from you guys. So if you're on YouTube and you refresh the page, you should see in the top of the section, I put a link to this tweet. And I'll also put a link to the tweet in the live chat right now. And
Zoom in on the tweet.
basically, it would be really helpful if people could just go to this tweet, just copy the text in this tweet, and make their own tweet just saying the same thing. Just like, hey, Twitter support, this account was suspended. It's because your system was exploited. Like,
Right.
please look into
Yeah.
this. We
And
want as
don't
many
guys,
people.
don't be rude, okay? Don't be rude to
Don't.
Twitter support. Just yeah, like some people are saying like, oh, believers, like look at this, like don't if you're like, it's true. It's believers, it's like religious people who took down our Twitter account. They like obviously like there was no violation of any rules. They just like they know how Twitter's reporting system works, and they just took advantage of that, which is like says a lot about morally where these people stand. You know what I mean? When they are eager to take advantage of the loopholes in the system to take down our Twitter account. Like, and these are the same people who often think like atheists do not have any moral standards, and yet they intentionally go lie just because they have nothing to respond to us with. Like they don't have like we are an account that is criticizing religion while at the same time defending religious people's rights, while we attack their religious ideas. Yet these people, instead of like engaging with us and trying to like convince us that maybe we're wrong, they have to use these tactics to just take down a Twitter account that it took us more than a decade to build up to 130,000 followers. And they just be like, you know what, we don't have any arguments against you, we're just going to use lying and tactics, like the evil tactics, as a way to just silence you, because that's what we do. Like, what does that say? But like these people, what do they like? Here's the thing: this is not going to stop us. Obviously, we're going to keep doing what we do. But like, if this doesn't indicate that we're on the right side, like we're going to keep doing the right ways of how these things are supposed to be done. Like this makes us more confident that we have the moral high ground, right? Like this motivates us. Like, at the end of the day, whatever happens, we're just going to do the things that we think is right to do. Whether you take our Twitter account, you take our Facebook account, you give us strikes on YouTube, we're just going to continue doing these things, no matter what you throw in our way, because we think it's the right thing to do. But look at you. You are so blindly interested in getting the results that you want that you are justifying any means necessary. And this is why your ideology is very dangerous, right? But anyways, if you thought that we're going to stop, like we're going to get intimidated and give up, no, we're just going to, whatever tools we have to do what we're doing, we're just going to continue doing it, like, because we believe in what we do and we think it's productive. And you're not going to stop us, right? So you do what you do with, which is these tactics, which is these kind of dishonest ways, and we do what we do, and you keep pretending like that atheists don't have moral standards, and you religious people do. Good luck with that.
And D is saying newsletter. Yes, this is a fantastic reminder that you guys need to join our newsletter. Link is in the description. If you join our newsletter, you get Armin's book for free, and you also get Blasphemous Art delivered straight to your mailbox every week for free. So those are some perks, but more importantly, no one can take our newsletter from us. So no matter where they try to nuke us, no matter how they try to exploit any systems to get rid of us, we can always find you, and you can always learn where to find us. So if you haven't already, please subscribe to the newsletter. With that being said, let us get to our patron questions, where we those who support us financially, they get the first class treatment. So wait, I just want to check something out.
Is that you? Hendrik for Susie. Oh, God.
In the corner of the live chat, I was like, is that a picture of me? I need to click on this to look.
All right.
I want to know why I was making that face. I was like, oh.
That's beautiful.
That's hilarious. Okay, so with that out of the way, we have our first patron question from D. D is asking, The Guardian reported that, quote, since 2020, Belarusian authorities have abolished or simplified visa requirements for 76 countries. Among them are many affected by serious conflicts, such as Syria, Libya, Iraq, and Afghanistan. Travel agencies in Syria, Iraq, and Turkey started selling trips to Belarus, in which they offer housing and employment in an EU country. Officials in many European Union countries are convinced that Russia is behind the migration crisis. If true, how does Russia gain from it? So
Belarus is basically using people as a weapon. We're both connected. Yeah, as like this is like. If that doesn't convince you that these people are evil, like, but I don't know what else. Like, we are gonna throw desperate people, including children, at the borders of Poland as a way, because eventually they're gonna end up in Western Europe and especially Germany. Because of why? Because of revenge. Like, imagine be like, I'm a dictator. You're putting sanctions on me because of my human rights violations. As a way for me to get revenge out of Europe, I'm going to literally throw people at you. I'm going to literally throw desperate people at your borders just to overwhelm you. Just to overwhelm you, like using the most desperate, the most miserable people that are in the most hard situation, using individuals as a weapon against Western Europe. Like, how evil do you have to be? But let me.
I think we should give a little context. So, can I quickly say, like, my understanding?
Yeah, I mean, the context was given in the question, but yeah, go on.
Okay, so my understanding is that Belarus is acting this way because sanctions were put on them after they forcibly grounded a plane to arrest a journalist that happened to be flying over their airspace.
That including other things, like the sanctions were
Also, how
added.
sketchy their recent presidential election was and how they've been brutalizing their citizens over protests, right? So the EU sanctioned them. And then they started doing this, including people who are flying into Minsk and then being transported over to the border as a way to basically get revenge on the EU. But then how do you think Russia plays into this?
Yeah, so
my understanding is Belarus is like a pariah except for their relationship with Russia.
Okay, Belarus. Okay, let me answer the question. Belarus is was using wanting to like appeal to both Russia and EU as a way to get points from each, like put them against each other. This is sometimes like a lot of tyrants do that, like they're well, not just tyrants, many countries, like during the Cold War, this was like such a standard tactic. Like you were like, am I in the side of the United States or is the Soviet Union? I mean, I don't know. What do you guys like? What do you guys have to offer, right? So in the modern days, Belarus was doing the same thing, like with playing the EU against Russia to just get points from each one of them. But ever since their human rights violations and their like anti-democratic methods have gone through the roof, then Belarus was like, okay, I'm getting closer to Russia. Eventually, like it's now completely on the side of Russia, and Belarus and Russia are like now complete allies against the rest of Europe. So the question is, why is Russia defending Belarus? Because they're be buddies now, right? They're like they are very, and actually Belarus doesn't have anybody other than Russia. Like they're an international pariah right now. That's the only ally that they have, right? So, and also Russia, so Belarus is like this tiny player that is like causing a lot of headache for the EU, but Russia is a much bigger player that loves causing headache for the EU. And if Belarus is now the tool, the proxy that it gets to use to intimidate EU, it's going to use it. It's going to use it, while at the same time, like loosening the leash sometimes and pulling it a little bit. Like recently, Russia came out and said, like, "Oh, I didn't approve of that. How come they did that without talking to me?" Right? You know what I mean? Like sometimes, like it's a back and forth, but it is like Belarus is kind of like a dog on a leash for Putin to like unleash on right now, at least, to use it as ways to when it comes to like international politics. Sometimes when you see like somebody a country competitors causing headache for each other, it's also to show that I can do this to you. You need to appease me. You need to give me points. Like, what do you have to offer for me to stop doing this, right? So that's how Russia will play into this, right? And it's working very well for Russia because Russia doesn't have to do something directly, so that you can't condemn Russia directly. It was Belarus, it's not Russia, right? So using proxies is a very effective way of causing headache for your enemies without like with what is it called when you could deny that you're doing something? Plausible deniability, right? Exactly. So that's the answer. D, does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. D is saying people were lied to and are now being pushed into Poland who are demonizing them. This whole situation is horrible. Yes, people are dying of the cold in the forests on the border because of this.
Yeah. It's and horrible. This could escalate, guys. This could really escalate. Like this could turn to tensions between Poland and Belarus. By the way, one silver lining is that Poland's reliance on the EU is becoming more and more highlighted. So that's like at least a somewhat of a good thing, right?
Which is interesting because they've been making moves like they're going to try to break away. Poland and Hungary are being real sketchy with their EU commitments.
Yeah, but this is good. A reminder to Poland that you need the EU against threats like Belarus and Russia.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, next patron question is from Anne. What are your thoughts on Yaomi Park and how communists in the West seem to want to discredit her? So, for those who don't know, Yaomi Park is a North Korean defector. And she's since moved to the United States, and she's written a book, and she has a YouTube channel. I think it's called like The Voice of North Korea with Yaomi Park. And her activism focuses around raising awareness about how horrendous things are in North Korea. Because she's a rare example of someone who's, able to get out and have a big spotlight. So, now, to be clear, I personally do not know about specific criticisms that communists have of her. So I'm going to speculate about what those criticisms would be, right? I think that she works with a lot of just right-leaning people, like a lot of conservative people. And I'm not going to do the whole thing where you say like, oh, this person is just being used by the right, because that's really demeaning. And also makes it seem like she is like, doesn't have awareness. But like working with PragerU, I'm a little bit like, so, but that kind of working with those kinds of people are going to, it's going to put people who are on the left like a bad taste in their mouth, and unfortunately they're might not be likely to listen to the other stuff that you have to say, like guilt by association, which I think is too bad, and it's a real problem, because just because she like many activists like has a message that she wants to get out desperately, and will take the opportunity of people platforming her, letting her share her story like as often as possible. They're
Okay, no,
like
yeah,
so
okay, finish your thought.
what I was going to say is that that shouldn't completely discredit everything else she has to say. I know she has a lot of like criticisms about like critical race theory and wokeness that that has some, it like brings up memories for her of how she was raised in terms of like this totalitarian ideology. And I don't know what communists like specifically say against her. I would assume they would like bring up all those people she associated with to like as a mark against her. But if they're trying to like criticize her because she's like what she says about North Korea, they're probably just delusional. I don't know,
No,
Armin. What do you
actually,
think?
okay, yeah, actually, this is not just communists. I was just looking at this when you were talking. It seems like other people that are not communists have serious issues with her stories, reporting inconsistencies in her stories. Um, like, if somebody is like criticizing her because they think like that North Korea is not a horrible place because they're communists, that's those people are delusional and supporting a dictatorial regime. That's one thing, but doesn't mean that just because somebody is rightfully bringing attention to how bad North Korea is, that because we agree that North Korea is a horrible place, where the greatest human rights violations are happening, that means anybody reporting it is reporting it accurately. It's possible that somebody is exaggerating or being hyperbolic just because of the attention they're giving. Again, I'm not saying that the reports of the inconsistencies are correct. I'm just saying like I'm just spending like 30 seconds looking at this. I can see that the sources are not just like far lefty communist Twitter accounts. I can see some of these reports are from legit journalists. I'm not saying these journalists are like correct. I'm just saying like they might be. You might want to take it a little bit, these accusations more seriously, given that it's not just like some tankies that are defending North Korea or saying that, right? um again, I'm not accusing her of lying. I'm just saying like the accusations need to be taken a little bit more seriously. Like we can't just dismiss it outright. It might be true, it might not be true. However, at the end of the day, we don't rely on reports by how do you say her? Yeah, Yaomi Park, right? We
Yeah,
don't rely on Yaomi Park. We don't rely on her stories to know the situation in North Korea, because again, her stories, as if they're true, should be listened to. I mean, even if it's not true, they should be listened to and researched and um, you know, checked and everything. However, we don't like these are anecdotal stories with no evidence to back it up. So what we use to know that North Korea is the worst is one of the worst places to be alive is based on credible reports that have been researched and backed up with a lot of detail, right? They go far beyond what this woman has said. Again, this woman might have is telling a story that might be true or might not be true. That's not what we use to know what's happening in North Korea. Like if you actually go and look at the way that information comes out of North Korea and the way that journalists research this and the level of skepticism and the level of like a mutual evidence that backs up other reports that they have independent from each other, stories that are coming from different people that are completely separate from each other, checking how much they match satellite images. It's very extensive. It's like it's not like, oh, North Korea must be a great place because we have found that Yaomi Park is like has been lying, right? Like obviously it was never dependent on that. um yeah, but again, just I'm sure that even if she is lying about her stories, a lot of commies will jump on that. It's not just commies, tankies. Okay, a lot of tankies would jump on that as a proof that any all the accusations against North Korea is a lie. But just because tankies jump on something, that doesn't mean the original accusations were wrong. It's possible that the original accusations are correct. Also, it is possible that memory building is happening. Okay, sometimes somebody is not lying, but it's our mind, like when some when something dramatic has happened to you in the past, when you remember it and telling the story to others and recollecting it, sometimes you're not intentionally lying, but your mind is just actively, you're so you are unconsciously so eager to make it more interesting that you unintentionally fill in the gaps with things that didn't happen, and you actually remember it as if they happened. So you're like, you're telling something that did not happen, but you yourself believe that this is an actual memory that you have had, right? So that's also a possibility. I'm not saying any of these is true for her, but I'm saying it's even possible that she's not lying, but she's telling you something that is not true.
And that's particularly likely when you've been under great trauma and duress.
Yes, that's also a pause. Again, all of this is possible. Don't tell us, don't go around and say that we're calling her a liar, right? I'm just telling you the things that are possible, not the things that are. I don't know which one of these versions are true, right?
Yeah, and just to add on to what I was saying earlier, like people who are going to be opposed to her, like they are going to jump on every single little inconsistency there is, right? And also, they're also going to jump on the fact that she does work with right-leaning people to discredit her, when that might just be she's going to who's willing to talk to her and let her share what she wants to talk about, right? Like ex-Muslims had to deal with that for a really long time until they kind of carved a space for themselves. Like they were
Well, I
discredited
mean,
by
now that
liberals
she did the
because
same thing, now that she carved the space for herself, she has like a giant YouTube channel right now, right? Like a
it's
very
pretty big, yeah.
successful YouTube channel. So now she shouldn't go on any of these right leaning platforms unless she's going to challenge them as well. Like if she was desperate and nobody was having her at that time, I would could justify going on PragerU and maybe somewhere else, like because nobody else was giving you an outlet. I don't think that was true. Actually, no, she's not justified in going PragerU. She had like a platform on TEDx and everything, right? I
I
think it's
think
justified. I think it's look. Let me finish. I think it's justified for you to go on like right leaning places if like you're completely censored everywhere else, and until you build your own platform. But if you have your own platform, or if you do have other places, if you do go on right leaning platform, you better go there and criticize them and challenge them as well, not just give them what they want. Okay, that's what I
yeah,
think.
yeah,
But
yeah,
go on.
exactly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And to clarify, I don't think she was on PragerU, but I remember seeing her working with Dennis Prager. Anyways,
Okay.
next patron. Oh, and by the way, I saw a fantastic question by Pashtun ethno
We will
nationalist
get.
in the chat
We will. Get,
that I really want to address, but we have to go through patron questions
we.
first. So,
Yes.
um, Oh my god, I really want to get into that. But Gasian American is asking, what are your thoughts on social Darwinism? And just to I will define it quickly. The theory that individuals, groups, and peoples are subject to the same Darwinian laws of nature, natural selection as plants and animals. Now
I guess.
largely discredited, blah blah blah. Armin,
So
go
it's
ahead.
basically a giant appeal to nature fallacy. Basically, it's the understanding that just because in nature there seems to be the survival of the fittest, right? That's how evolution works. And like, oh, that's how nature works. Therefore, it must be good because that's how nature works. And therefore, we should apply the same logic to society, like natural, basically natural, therefore good, which is moronic because the whole point, like when it comes to coming, it's the opposite, it's the exact opposite of what we need to do when it comes to society. Because just because something happens in nature, it doesn't mean that you have to create a mirror image of that when it comes to policies and strategies on how to manage a society, given that we as human beings, we want to create societies where we protect the weakest. Okay, not it's the opposite of what we should be doing, right? So yes, in nature, in evolution, right, in the what we have is the fittest will survive. Okay, so the people that looked at upon that, they came to the conclusion that, okay, given that that's what happens in nature, we have to look at society and we have to also make the fittest survive. So that meant that they supported like laws of like capitalism with zero regulations, so just so that the fittest survive, and also euthanasia, right? We're like, hey, evolution says the fittest should survive, so we should also do the same thing. By the way, some idiotic believers, religious people, think that, oh, look, you believe in Darwinism, therefore you should believe in these things as well. You should, like, you don't you believe in don't you believe in evolution? Okay, so therefore you should believe that in society the fittest should survive. No, you moron. In society, we do the opposite. In society, we want to create institutions and foundations and government that protect the weakest, because the strongest do not need the protection of the government as much as the weakest do. Just because something is happened, just because we accept, we know, and we claim that something happens in nature, that doesn't mean that that's a remedy for how to run the society. You goddamn morons. Okay, by the way, this whole concept of social Darwinism is what led to the greatest crimes in World War II, right? By Adolf H, right? This was the idea of like, oh, so the survival of the fittest. Let's just eliminate the weakest people, right? And by the way, this whole concept of social Darwinism that eventually led to the gas chambers in World War II, this came out of United States. The doctors in the United States decided that this is the best way. Gas chambers was one of the solutions they offered to do social Darwinism. And then the German doctors went to the United States. They learned that the American doctors, they're like, I don't think United States is ready to do something like this. The Germans were like, hold our beer. And they went back to Germany and they were like, let's do this here. And that's resulted in one of the world's greatest human rights violations. So yeah, social Darwinism is extremely dangerous unless some people say social Darwinism also includes genetically, like future genetical modification of removing diseases or enhancing strength and stuff like that. I don't think that is social Darwinism, because anything that is Darwinism will require some form of selection or breeding. If you go genetically enhance a living being, that's not like, then there's no selection happening. So I don't think that is, you could be, that is remotely the same as euthanasia or like social engineering. I think that's a positive. I think like if you could scientifically, we get to a place where We could genetically modify humans in a way that they're resistant to diseases, resistance to cancer, resistance to heart disease, maybe smarter, maybe stronger. I think that's progress, because you're not harming anybody. You're not eliminating any group of people because they have any defects, or they're weaker, or they're not, they don't have able bodies. You're just enhancing people. You're not harming anybody. That I think is fine. But go
Well,
on.
some people would say that you are getting rid of people because you're not even allowing that to exist in the environment to begin with. You're not.
Yeah, but you're not getting any people. You're not getting rid of people who are alive.
Already there. But what's interesting is that you, Armin, Mr. Navabi, you get accused of social/cultural Darwinism a lot.
How?
Did you know this?
No. Who?
Yes, you do. Because you're always talking about, not always, but sometimes you talk about cultures that are superior and values that are superior, and how values that are inferior are going to go the way of the dodo. And that with that is going to go traditionalism and religiosity, etc. So I particularly remember when you were on Apostate Prophets channel last year, you were talking about this in the midst of our blasphemy controversy, and you were clipped towards the end of your conversation with him going off about inferior cultures and inferior values.
Right. Okay, so that's actually the opposite of social engineering, social Darwinism, because what I'm suggesting is that inferior cultures are cultures who are inferior at protecting the weak, right? So social Darwinism is the idea that the strongest should survive. I'm talking about the culture and values that are superior. They're superior because they protect the weakest among us, the most unfortunate, the most so when I say, for example, the minority, so for example, if I say, Hindutva culture is inferior, is because of its oppressing of the Dalits. Well, actually, Hinduism culture is inferior, is because of the oppression of Dalits, right? Of the outcasts, right? So that is what I'm advocating for is the opposite of social Darwinism, because social Darwinism would be like, oh, these people have failed in society, so let them fail, let the society eliminate them so that society could progress faster. I'm like, no, superior values are values that and create a shield and protect the weak. Creates an effort to lift them up, take care of them. So yeah, when I say a culture or a value is superior, I'm not talking about people. I'm talking about a set of ideas. When it comes to the people, the weaker people are the priority. When it comes to the ideas, the strongest ideas are, I am in favor of them compared to the weakest ones. And the weakest ideas are the ones that don't protect the weak. When it comes to people, I actually I'm in favor of prioritizing the weakest. And by weakest, I mean the people who are not able, the people who are poor, the people who are oppressed, the people who are considered the minority. Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, or when we were in the midst of being just stormed with that was a constant accusation in my replies. He's a social Darwinist. I was like, oh my god.
Also, by the way, for the people in the live chat who's saying that the Dalits is a British British invention, congratulations to the Indians who don't know their own history. This is completely in the Vedas. I've studied your Vedas, and this is in the whole caste system and the outcasts and everything. It predates the British Empire. It predates Britain being even a country. It's ancient. It's within Hinduism. It's completely a Hindu concept. The British have done a lot of bad things in India. This is not one of them. This is completely a Hindu thing. I would say that the British
did formalize it legally, but
yes,
anyways,
but
that's besides the point. Yes. We got to move on to the next question.
No. They did formalize it legally. That is correct, but they didn't invent it. It completely predates the British Empire. Yeah. All right, let's go next.
Next question is from Gasian American. Would you consider vision boards, altars to celebrities and sports teams, and visiting a memorial to be the secular counterparts to deification and ancestor worship? Well, this is an
No.
interesting question, and I think it depends a lot on specific usages. So, for example, sometimes people have vision boards like just to kind of remind them of what their goals are in a very like normal way. And then a lot of people use vision boards as this sort of like manifestation, use the power of the secret, or I think that's what it's called, like that weird thing that Oprah promoted, like where it's actually kind of superstitious. A lot of people use altars in a superstitious way. However, at my old apartment, I used to have what you could call an altar, but for me, I had no belief in it. For me, it was a place where I would put things where I would remind myself about good times in my life, or I would put little mementos that reminded me about characteristics about myself that I liked or strengths that I could draw upon, and I really liked that. Um, so it depends, but mostly I think people use these kinds of things in a superstitious way.
Well, I mean, if it's not, the fact that it could be not superstitious means that it's completely not the same as ancestor worship. The ancestor worship, I mean, if you do that with celebrities, at least or sports team, these are things that are exist, right? Your ancestors are dead; they do not be living, so you cannot be worshiping them. I don't think that's the same thing. I mean, if you just like celebrate a sports team or or like a celebrity, you might. I mean, you could criticize that as good or bad. I don't know. You could maybe pass judgment on that, but that's completely different from something that is based on fiction or based on like a, I don't know, superstition, right? So I think that's why it's completely different. I
Cool.
think most vision boards are not superstitious. Most of them are just like, here's the thing, here are the things that I like most of the time, right? I think it's
Um,
fine. Yeah.
so next question is from Music Guy. Music Guy says, "What are your thoughts on Iran's currency recently shrinking by 2.8%? Damn. That would bring the total to a 31.5 reduction in the last 6 months. Jesus. What type of effects does this have on the country and regular people? Also, will this cause Iranian leaders to compromise their demands from the nuclear deal?" Well, Armin, this is something we talk a lot about behind the scenes, and so take it away.
I mean, okay, so the effect on the people has been devastating. People's purchasing power has been dramatically been reduced in the past decade in Iran, and it's the speed of it reducing. It's only been accelerating in the past I don't know, two years or so. It has been devastating. It has been devastating, and it's not all because of sanction. It's also a lot of it has been because of really bad mismanagement. Um, the Iranian government still believes in the old model of command economy, where they set the prices, where they decide how much production of things need to happen, where they limit what comes in the country. You know what I mean? Like, you know, they limit what trades can be taking place. It has been very devastating, and also the way that they have managed, um, agriculture has been really devastating. The water supply, everything, and they put the most unqualified people in charge of the economy based on, um, based on who supports the right people, and it's mostly based on uh, how supportive you are of the right people in the regime for you to get the positions rather than actually having the proper qualification. And it's getting even worse. Um, and it's also because of Iran's the Islamic Republics of, adventures in the region when it comes to them meddling in other countries, is isolating them. Not like, it's not just the US guys, like Iran's government is isolating its economy from many other countries as well, because of the headache that they're causing. Even its allies now, like even Iraq and Syria, and the Lebanese people are getting frustrated with how much Iran's government is meddling in their country, and even the countries that are supposed to be their natural allies. There's now a lot of conflict within these countries, whether how close they want to get to the government, right? So again, all of this, some people think that it's going to get to a breaking point where people have lost so much that they have nothing to lose, and eventually it will lead to mass protests. I don't know to the extent where it will topple the government. I don't think that is likely. But however, what I've seen recently is that it's becoming so popular in Iran to complain about the economy that now it's turning the, what do you call the fund, the right, the hardliners, right? It's turning hardliners and hardliners, right? So I think the major threat in the Iranian government is not from the people or from the reformists or from foreign actors. It's mostly that it's getting so bad that the hardliners are complaining about the situation in the economy. So like you could see, like in the Congress in Iran, in the Majlis, well, Parliament, I think, yeah, in the Parliament, you could see that very, very right-leaning hardliners are coming out, and they are so aggressively, openly speaking badly about the government and how horrible the economic situation is, like very, very passionately. So you can see the hardliners to see that this is not like, and we see like some very, very religious mullahs coming out and saying that we need to open up to the rest of the world. This isolationism is not working out, right? Like, and some hardliners are going after the mullahs and saying, "How dare you say that after what you saw with the nuclear deal? How Trump betrayed us? Now you're saying that we should open to the world." But there's a major conflict. What was the second part of that question? Because I wanted to address that. Yeah.
How will this
Yeah.
affect the JCPOA?
Right. So here's the thing: when it comes to, when you say how will this cause the Iranian leaders? Will this cause the Iranian leaders to compromise? But you have to understand that the Iranian leaders contradict each other, right? There is a major push right now with the Raisi administration to find a way. Okay, so there are contradictory. There are some people within the regime that do not want the deal to go through, okay, that they're just buying time, or if they want the deal to go through, they want the deal to go through with as much delay as possible, right? Because the longer it takes for Iran to go to the deal, the more they have enriched uranium in the meantime, and that means that they would have an upper hand when it comes to either doing a deal. And if they don't ever do a deal, they will get to a position where they're so close to having a nuclear weapon without having it, which they think it will effectively have the deterrent properties of effectively having a nuclear weapon, right? So there are different philosophies within when it comes to the hardliners in Iran. Some of them believe that screw the deal, we shouldn't be negotiating with the United States ever again. Some of them are like, dude, like we cannot not have a deal. The sanctions are crippling our economy. And the ones who think that are used to are can't openly say that, because most hardliners are against any deal. But the hardliners that want a deal, they are trying to find a way to advocate that without openly saying that, because they don't want other hardliners to basically show like, oh my god, look at you, how could you be how could you be in our camp when you're advocating for making a deal with the United States, okay? And there are some other hardliners that are in between. They're like, eventually we will have some form of a deal, but we will have a deal with as much delay as possible. So they keep stalling. They keep like, maybe tomorrow. But the horrible thing is that the Iranian people are paying the price, because this is having a devastating effect on the people's lives in Iran. But the Iranian regime, they care more about the nuclear capabilities, because it will ensure that they will stay in power. So they're sacrificing the wealth of their people over something that will guarantee that they maintain the power, they will get to keep ruling over the people. Anyway.
And it's such a shame, because Iran has the potential to be an economic powerhouse.
Yeah.
And poor Gossam is saying, I should not have watched the stream. I just quit smoking.
Yeah.
Um,
Um. Wait. I wanted to add something else. Oh yeah. For people must understand when they say that, the nuclear. This is not about nuclear energy. This is absolutely about nuclear weapons. Okay.
mhm.
Nothing when it comes to nuclear energy. Nothing Iran does when it comes to pursuing nuclear energy makes any economic sense. This is all about having a deterring effect over becoming a powerhouse in the region, right? And having some a leverage to pressure the rest of the world to have to deal with Iran. Okay, so and again, given that this has makes no economic sense, all of the economic price that Iran has paid for its nuclear ambitions far outweigh any potential benefits that they could get from nuclear energy. And this means that, again, the Iranian regime has sacrificed the wealth of its people for its own ambition, for the ambitions of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Anyways, let's move on.
Another question from Music Guy saying Assad has recently expelled the IRGC's General Javad Ghaffari from Syria. Will this disrupt relations between Syria and Iran, being that Iran has had a large military presence ever since the Syrian civil war? Side note, it's been said that the general was headed towards the Golan Heights near the Israeli Syrian border.
Hmm. So this goes back to what we were saying about even Iran's most natural allies are getting more and more um, frustrated with how with the level of influence they are playing they're having on their borders, right, within their borders. Just to be completely honest, the Iran's government itself has denied these reports, but we don't obviously like they would, whether it happened or not. But what the actual reports are, again, anything is possible. Maybe Iran's government is right and this is like a false report. However, if the reports are correct, what's happened is that the so for people who don't know, IRGC is like what is Iran's one of the two of Iran's military branch. The more ideological military unit in Iran is the IRGC, and they are also responsible for um, operations outside of Iran's borders through their Quds force, right? So so Iran's proxies and Iran's IRGC has a lot of presence in Syria. However, their presence in Syria is supposed to be done with what Assad allows them to do. Like, I mean, you're operating within the country that Assad is supposed to be the ruler of, right? With his permission, right? So what apparently this general has done, which has frustrated Assad, which is amazing that Assad is even in the position now to be frustrated out of Iran, because it wasn't that long ago that Assad was on his knees when it comes to like Iran. I'm pretty sure like a lot of people in Iran are frustrated that Assad even dares to push back, given that they think that they're responsible for Assad being alive from ISIS today, right? Like because Assad's regime was falling apart, um, and from both from inside and outside, and the Iranian's government thinks like we gave you the ground troops to stay in power, like we saved you. How dare you tell our general that you don't get to do this or that, right? Anyways, what this general is doing apparently is creating a black market in Syria for weapons and other things to make money in Syria, which really disrupts Syria's economy. But and maybe more dangerous than that this general is targeting Israeli and U.S. targets to the extent that it might escalate more war in Syria, right? And this is the last thing Assad wants right now, for United States to become more involved in Syria, because like these are potential direct attacks on U.S. interests, and it was inviting like just in the same way that Iraq and Lebanon have become like a battleground, but especially Iraq had become a battleground for Iranian proxies. Like Syria was going to become. I mean, Syria is already a place for conflict between many different forces, right? Like the Turks, the Kurds, Al Qaeda, ISIS, and many different groups are there. But this level of escalation that this general was bringing Syria to, like becoming like a place where U.S. will come back and have even more presence in, because their units were being directly targeted, not by Iranian proxies, but by the IRGC itself. Like this is if these escalated, Assad could have seen like the level of chaos would have brought him back to a situation where his whole regime would be a threat. So Assad will like got rid of this guy, which is really telling, because Iran has spent so much of its own resources taking away from its people to be able to do empire building the way it did in Lebanon, to continue doing that in Iraq, in Syria, and in Yemen. And to see this major reaction in Lebanon, people are frustrated with Iran's influence. In Iraq, people are extremely. We saw in the recent election how obvious it was that people were so tired of Iran's influence in Iraq. And now we're seeing Syria. And this in Syria, it's not even the people, okay? It's not just the people. In Syria, we're seeing Assad himself, that is supposed to be, like himself is supposed to be an ally of Iran. He himself is now getting rid of a general. So this doesn't really look good for, after all the resources that has been spent. This is the result that Iran is getting. It's not looking very well.
Iran is just in a bad way, like left, right, and center right now. Like
we'll see.
Down bad.
They might, yeah. Well, things might change, but we'll see.
And last Patreon question is from Music Guy, and it's for me. I think because he asked a lot of questions for Armin, he wanted me to feel included, which was nice. Susie, what are your thoughts on Paul Gosar anime cartoon censor? So the background of this is there is a representative from Arizona, and he posted a video on his social medias that was like an anime cartoon of him attacking fellow representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, like with a knife, and then like attacking President Biden. And this caused a huge outrage. And he was like, oh no, it's not violence. Like this is symbolic over our disagreements on immigration. And people are like, what? Like, especially after the insurrection on January 6th, like this sort of thing would have already been unacceptable. But after what happened in the beginning of this year, like the temperature is so high and the sensitivities and the perceived threat level is so high that this was only going to receive like a huge response, as it should. It's absolutely wild that he posted this and was trying to pass it off as just a joke. He was censored after Democrats and only 2 Republicans voted to strip him of his committee appointments, which I think is ridiculous that only 2 Republicans were able to put their names on paper to say this is unacceptable. And of course, it was Liz Cheney and Adam Kinzinger. Unsurprisingly. So it's just crazy. I do consider this an incitement to violence. I don't know how an elected official can post any sort of depiction of him attacking other elected representatives in the freaking president and not expect massive backlash. I think it was completely right to censor him. And it's just insane. And it's so weird to me that Republicans paint AOC as having a victim complex and a persecutory delusion. And sometimes I do think she like plays a little bit into it. Sometimes I do think she does have a little bit of a flavor of that. But then stuff like this happens and it's like, yeah, I do feel persecuted. I do feel threatened, and I do feel like you're making me a victim when you post cartoon videos of you stabbing me in the back of the neck. Like, on the other hand, I'm like, how do you, like, okay, yes, sometimes there's a flavor of that, but then you guys are giving her legitimate reasons to believe that. Like, it's on you partially too. Yeah. I mean, you know, back in the day when my country was still more of a baby, our elected representatives would actually duel with guns and get into fist fights on the on the floors of Congress. So, you know, stuff has gotten crazy with our elected officials before, but yeah, no, that was just insane. So that was the end of our patron questions. If you want first class special treatment during our Q&A, consider becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month, and we treat you like a cool kid. And now we will move to the live chat questions. But the first live chat question I'm going to skip towards, because this is something I really want to talk about. And then we can go back to the top.
Okay.
Pashu Ethno-Nationalist is asking, Armin, your old MEK mate, Mushtaba, was on Apostate Prophet's live stream today. What do you think of prominent channels giving an MEK member such a large platform to spew his views? Now, before Armin even speaks, I want to firmly reject and say I'm pissed off at you implying that Armin is in any way friends or buddies with Mushtaba, also known as the Perfect Dawa. Okay? Screw you for that. There are few people who go after MEK as hard as Armin does at the cost of other people who would otherwise support him. Okay?
I think he's joking. I don't think he was he meant that. I don't think he knows. I think he knows how much I'm anti-MEK.
But I don't know. When someone has an ethno-nationalist in their freaking username,
He's saying it was irony. Okay, passion as a nationalist, you have to understand that you can't. It's hard. You can't tell if something is a joke or not over text. Okay, so. And we don't know what you're assuming. So yeah, no, that mate part was a joke. He didn't mean.
Okay. Because that was a big accusation, and I will not stand for that. I will not stand for this slander against Armin. Okay, but continuing. Okay, so this is something I really wanted to talk about today. So for those who are not aware, AP had a live stream today, and it was called like a conversation with a progressive Muslim. And he had advertised that he was going to have this conversation. When I saw the picture of who he's going to have a conversation with when he posted about it in his community tab, I commented, this guy supports MEK, the terrorist. Word we can't say because of the YouTube algorithm.
Let's just say it's a terrorist group.
It's a terrorist group. Okay. And during the live chat, I was watching it and I sent 2 super chats. So if you watch it towards the end, he reads my super chats. So I confronted Mushtaba. And I said, has Mushtaba been forthcoming and transparent about his support and membership with the terrorist group known as MEK? And AP asks him this question. And he's kind of like, wait, what's this about? And Mushtaba basically goes on to be like, oh, these are just unfortunate lies that people believe from the Iranian fascist regime, that we are terrorists and all this. I'm so trained to say terrorists, that we're just terrorists and really we're freedom fighters and all this stuff. And I was screaming at my scream. I'm like, no, this is BS. Don't believe him. And he starts talking about Maryam Rajavi and all this stuff. And AP's kind of like, oh, wait, what's this all about? Like, I wish you had told me about this. And then Mushtaba kind of goes on to continue try to talk about it. And AP's like, I don't know. I don't really want to talk about it because I don't know what this is all about. Like, I'll have to look into this. And then I made another comment later about like the reason why, because everyone in the live chat during the conversation was talking about like this guy's his views on Islam and like socialism, like all this stuff. It doesn't make any sense. Like it's completely inconsistent with an Islamic understanding. Like everyone was like, what is this guy even talking about? And so I made another live chat where I was like, his inconsistencies can be explained by his belief in the MEK ideology, which is a bastard idea, like extremism rooted in this bastardization of Islam and communism, which equals a really ugly baby. And so, okay. That being said, when it comes to apostate prophet, I genuinely think apostate prophet didn't know this.
He should have. I think he should have done some research, because this guy is a person that is this guy is worse than Muhammad Hijab and Ali Dawa and Daniel Haqiqatjou.
He's a terrorist sympathizer openly.
Yeah, because it's so amazing, because they're Apostate Prophet and others think they're considering Muhammad Hijab and Daniel Haqiqatjou and Ali Dawa as fundamentalists, and there's this other Muslim oh, don't worry, we're the peaceful Muslim guy, we are the alternative, peaceful Muslims. But he is worse. He's a member of a terrorist organization. Right now, Muhammad Hijab and Ali Dawa and Daniel Haqiqatjou, they just have YouTube channels. They haven't participated in officially endorsing a terrorist group, right? But this guy has, and this guy is now being put out there as maybe a better alternative, or a peaceful version of Islam. No, this guy is the worst. This guy is the worst kind of. These are people that are actively responsible for assassination of not just not people from the Islamic Republic of Iran, of innocent people. These people of their own members. These are people that encourage their own members to burn themselves alive for Maryam Rajavi. These people have they get their members to take poison pills. These are people who are trained from childhood to give their lives for Maryam Rajavi. This is not. But by the way, this MEK people. I don't know if it's even as Islam. This is Maryam Rajavism. These people worship. They don't worship Allah. These people worship Maryam Rajavi. Okay, this is if they're coming and trying to sell this to you as a more peaceful version of Islam. MEK is the marriage of communism and Islam, and with a goddess, with that, and replacing Allah with Maryam Rajavi as a goddess. That is what MEK is. It's actually the most horrific Frankenstein monster of two of the worst ideologies on the planet, and it's extremely dangerous. I would say MEK ideology is actually more dangerous than Islam. Okay, and these people this is a group of people that are willing to sacrifice anything, including Iranian people, for getting Maryam Rajavi to power. They burn their own people alive for the sake of Maryam Rajavi. This is go on. You want to say something?
These people will openly deny the crimes committed against the Iranian people the MEK did. Horrific things. And I wasn't going to let him get away with that without someone saying that during this live stream. Okay? Just like how I will not let people whitewash the crimes committed against thousands of MEK members by the Iranian regime in the 80s. They are also the victims of one of the largest mass executions in the past century. Okay?
Right. Yeah.
Both of those things need to be highlighted. But that just because those horrible, unjustified things happen to their members, that doesn't validate their ideology in any which shape or form. They are a cult. They indoctrinate their members. And just like how Mushtaba was being deceptive about his true beliefs, his true affiliations, they use deceptive means to entrap their members abroad in cult camps where they indoctrinate them, separate them from their families. I mean, the depths of the practices of this group are horrific. People need to research this. What they've done to their members in Iraq, it's horrible. They were responsible for some of the first female suicide bombers in the world. These people have horrific beliefs. And what he did when he was trying to give explanations, when I brought up this fact in my super chat, he was saying, oh, well, politicians like Mike Pence, we have international parliamentarians. We have all these politicians that come and support us, like Pompeo and Rudy Giuliani. This is deception. This is how they have operated from the beginning. They try to establish themselves as a legitimate alternative to the Islamic Republic of Iran. They're not. They commit horrific crimes. Don't let anyone try to like whitewash this. This is like how cults work is they use deception to entice people into their ideology. And that's what he's doing by painting himself as some progressive Muslim trying to help people escape the jungle of capitalism. It really pissed me off.
They sent their own people into a battle knowing that this is a suicide mission for them to die, on purpose for them to die. That's how evil these people are. So I wish, like, next time, first of all, I'll post a prophet. Next time, if you have somebody like this on, like, make sure you investigate what they're involved in. One thing I want you to ask any MK member, because these people are more loyal to Maryam Rajavi than they are to Islam. Okay, this is what they're called. They call that they are in, right? They're just using the fact that they're peaceful, like a different version of Islam, as a way to act like they are a good version of Islam. They're not even loyal to anything about Muhammad, or they're a weird branch of Shia Islam. They have some of the Shia symbolism. They use Imam Hussein as a way to act like they are religious. They are still, but most of their loyalty is to Maryam Rajavi. Ask an MK member to say something negative about Maryam Rajavi. These people will not criticize. They will not question Maryam Rajavi. They would say something negative about Muhammad before they would ever say anything negative about Maryam Rajavi. That is what their cult is. Like, this is, you are endorsing something that most people don't understand what this is. Like, don't let them portray themselves as a peaceful version of Islam. This is something completely alien to most people. It's a weird, like a Frankenstein monster that most people, like, if they get exposed to it, they don't even know what they're dealing with, and that's why they don't even know how to criticize it, because it's a cult that people are not familiar with. Oh, look at this. Last time is saying, their slogan is Iran, Maryam, Iran, Iran, Maryam. Yep. They consider Iran to be Maryam, right? Like, there's like Iran, they cannot comprehend an Iran that Maryam is not the leader of, right? Like, they're willing for all of Iran to just go to be annihilated if it means that Maryam will not be involved in leading it. That's what they are for. They're more loyal to Maryam than they are to the Iranian people. But yeah, go ahead.
Mia is saying, please tell this to Har Sultan. Mustafa also often features on his channel, especially during call-ins. If that's true, this is a huge problem. This will not stand. And never let these people whitewash the blood that they have spilled of ordinary, innocent Iranian civilians in their so-called fight for freedom.
Yeah.
Spitting on the graves of all of those innocent people. Okay? I need to talk to Haris about this.
Yeah, and also, again, the members of the MEK, most of them are brainwashed innocent people. It's mostly the leadership. But the thing is that
they're victims.
if they come at you and tell you that our members have been killed by the Islamic Republic, it's true, they have. But guess what? The leadership likes that. The leadership of the MEK sends its members to die because they want to use their victimhood as a way to promote their cult. The same way Falun Dafa, the same way other cults. The cult leaders, like, yes, the members are victims of oppressive regimes. Like, the members of Falun Dafa are victims of Chinese government, and the members of the MEK are victims of the Islamic Republic of Iran. But the leaders of MEK and the leaders of Falun Dafa want to send their own members to be killed by these regimes as a way to use that as a marketing tactic, use the victimhood to promote the brand of their cult.
Yep. I think the title of this clip should be Apostate Prophet Platforms a Terrorist Sympathizer.
Oof.
That's a note to our editor right now.
Oh my God. Jeez.
I still love you, Apostate Prophet. Love you, Ribbon, but
oh my God.
We have to talk about this because, like, I need people to know what that guy really stands for. It's really important.
Yeah, but no, seriously, do some, like, check these people before you platform them. I mean, by the way, I'm not against platforming them, but platform them and then confront them. with the fact that they're a member of a terrorist group. Yeah.
To be
Anyway.
fair, he's very deceptive about what his beliefs are. When you had him on Secular Jihadists, you talked to him for 2 hours before he was asked, who's a thought leader that you admire? And he said, Maryam Rajavi. And that's when it was all revealed. So
No,
he's
no, I
very
didn't.
deceptive.
No. I started, like, he said something. I don't remember what he said, but he was like, he came in as a peaceful Muslim, and I didn't know he was a member of the MEK. Okay. But he said something that you're like, wait a minute. I know. I know this brand of bullshit. Like, he didn't mention MEK. He didn't say anything about the MEK, but he said, he started speaking in a way I'm like, I know this. And then I asked him about, wait, can you mention, do you have, no, I asked him specifically, wait, do you belong to, are you an MEK member? And he said yes. I know, like, oh my God, we have a terrorist as our guest. And then the rest of that episode turned into me like laying.
You went in. Guys, if you want to hear that, go check out Secular Jihadist and look for something like 2 ex-Muslim atheists talk to an ex-atheist Muslim, something like that.
Yeah.
And around
No,
the
I-
2
yeah,
hour
I
mark, that's
specifically
when it
remember-
gets spicy.
I specifically remember it wasn't because I asked him who you admire that I realized that he is MEK. It was because of his, like, no, like, Ghost Bunny, it wasn't like, no, it wasn't this. It wasn't like I smell BS. I always smell BS. It was like I could tell the brand of the BS. I was like, this is like I could recognize MEK vocabulary in his apologetic methodology.
That
right?
loaded language,
Yeah.
language.
Yeah, it was much. Yeah. I'm actually proud of recognizing that. Without him ever saying that he's MEK, the fact that I recognize all of a sudden, like, wait, is this MEK? Is this MEK propaganda? Like, I was so proud of myself when I just recognized that without him saying that he's MEK. Anyway. Yeah. It's like, yeah, Armin went from 0 to 100 in less than a second. Yes.
I
All right.
love it when you get like that. You were, oh my God.
Hey,
so
actually, let's defend AP. We had him on, not knowing. Like, we can't
That's what I
really
was saying.
criticize. We can't really criticize Apostate Prophet that much because we had him on, not knowing that he was MEK, and you can't expect like somebody like Apostate Prophet to be familiar with the MEK. Like, I'm Iranian, of course I'm going to be more familiar with the MEK than Apostate Prophet. So maybe, like, if we're going to blame him for having him on, well, we had him on without knowing that he's MEK. It was just my familiarity with the MEK that made me realize this halfway through the show. So we can't, like, so maybe we'll still put that in the title as clickbait, but we really can't. We can't.
I mean, it's
really
not clickbait. It did happen. We're just
did
not.
Happen,
we're being
but
charitable towards him.
But we can't blame him for having. He didn't know. Yeah, we did the same thing. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to the next question.
Well, that was something I really wanted to talk about today, so I'm glad I got the chance.
Yeah.
Here's a question from D. More geopolitics. What's your take on Iraqi Shiite cleric? Oh God, I can't say that. Muqtada al-Sadr, asking pro-Iran factions to disband. Yes.
Well, I mean, yes, we approve. It's very interesting that Muqtada al-Sadr, who used to be the main enemy of United States after the U.S. invasion of Iraq, has now become an asset of United States because he's the main opposition against Iran. And the beautiful thing about him being the opposition against Iran in Iraq is that he is very Shia. Like the most, like, he's the most powerful Shia force in Iraq after Sistani, right? He's not a marja, he's not like a religious, he's not like an ayatollah or anything like that, but he is the son of one, but he does have his own militia, and he has been, you would think that being such a powerful Shia force and Iran using Shia proxies in different countries as a way to gain influence in Iraq, Lebanon, Yemen, and Syria, you would think that another Shia force would be a natural ally. But given that now it's not just the Sunnis that are saying Iran get the F out. It's not just the Kurds who are saying Iran get the F out. It's now the Shia, the most powerful Shia religious leaders that like, we're tired of you meddling in our country. This is not your playground against the United States and Israel. This is our country. We have other agenda other than your geopolitical ambitions. We have people to feed. We have electricity to give. We have water that we want to give. We want to create. We want to make this stabilize this country rather than turning a chessboard between other powers outside. Get the f out. We have a country to manage. This is not about Shia Sunni. This is about the Iraqi people wanting to have control over their own country, right? Having a Shia cleric, having such a powerful Shia cleric now turning against Iran, again, goes back into what we were saying earlier during the show about the fact that Iran is like all the investment, all the resources that the Islamic Republic of Iran has spent over empire building outside of its borders to build the Shia empire, the Shia crescent, right? It's now seems to be backfiring. Assad has been pushing back against Iran. The Lebanese people have been pushing back against Iran's government. The Iraqi people have more than ever been pushing back against Iran's influence. That doesn't mean that Iranians' influence is going to disappear. Again, this is a political pushback against Iran's influence. Military-wise, Iran still has a lot of influence in Iraq and all these other people. You can change the votes, you can change the parliament, you can get rid of the militia. The reason why you can't get rid of the militia is because these militia, they are Iraqi citizens, right? Where are you going to get rid of them? Where are you going to go? Where are you going to make them go to, right? However, it's very interesting because Muqtada al-Sadr himself has said, because of how much Iranian-backed militias in Iraq are taking control of everything, he himself has come out and said in his speech that all arms and all weaponry and armed forces should be the government, not all these militias. It should be only the governments. And this coming from a guy who himself has his own militia. Muqtada al-Sadr has his own militias. So now the person with a militia, is saying all of these militias need to like go home and let the government control everything. So that's amazing that he's saying that, right? Yeah, so we'll see. By the way, other than al-Sadr, we have to look at what's going to happen to Sistani. Is getting very old, which is the most powerful marja in Shia Islam after Khamenei, which arguably he should have been the most powerful, because Khamenei doesn't have any of the credentials that Sistani has to be a marja, to be a source of fatwa or religious rulings or in religious influence. But he is an extremely secular religious leader, thinking that Shia Islam should not be mixed with politics, and completely counter to Khamenei's view, which rules over theocracy in Tehran. And this is why the Pope met with Sistani, because the Pope also believes in separating religion from politics, and he wanted to meet with Sistani to bring more power between Khamenei and Sistani, highlighting the one that believes in separation of mosque and state. But when Sistani dies, who will replace him? That's going to be very interesting to see if it's going to be somebody as committed to secularism or not. So that's something to see, for us to see, because again, Khamenei sees like the greatest threat to the religious influence of Khamenei is not Sunnis, is competing Shia sources, and Muqtada al-Sadr will be the main political force against Khamenei's Shia ruling, and Sistani would be the most religious, the main source of religious competition. So these are both of them being in Iraq. So keep an eye on both Muqtada al-Sadr and Sistani when it comes to, and also Khamenei is going to die soon as well. So again, all of these people will be replaced. The dynamics, how the politics and religious influence between all of this is going to change, is going to be fascinating to watch. It's going to be amazing, and I can't. Yeah,
big shifts.
Yeah.
Pashtun ethno-nationalist is asking: Is Douglas Murray a weaselly little coward for calling out cancel culture by universities of people on the right, yet supporting canceling Muslim figures from speaking at universities? Now, I'm not familiar with what Muslim figure getting canceled you're talking about, but Some people would argue that it is not inconsistent to deny platforms or deny free speech to those who would deny it from others.
Wait, I
That
don't know
has
what
more to do
happened.
with democratically held office, but
What is this about? What happened?
I don't know.
Do you know what happened?
No.
Okay, so we can't really judge what happened here because we're not familiar with the event. It seems like you're very passionate about what side you're on based on the language that you're using. However, I have already mentioned that I'm not gonna judge whether something is cancel culture or not, because cancel culture is defined differently by different people. Instead of that, I'm going to argue whether something was justified deplatforming or unjustified deplatforming, because I think defining that is a lot easier. Like we know, I think most people understand the definitions of justified and unjustified, even though we might disagree of what was justified or what is unjustified. At least we know what we mean by that. When we are arguing whether something was cancel culture or not cancel culture, given that most of us we don't know what I call cancel culture, you might not cancel culture, given that definition has not been settled. It's easier to say, like, whether it's easier to just discuss whether a platforming or deplatforming of somebody was justified, right? I think that would be a better conversation to have, given that I don't know. When somebody says this is an example of cancel culture, I really don't know what they mean. So it's easier to just say, like, was this justified or not? That would be an easier discussion to have, right? But again, I don't know the specifics of what happened, so I can't talk about that. Yeah.
Next question is from Mustafa. Hi, Mustafa. Are we going to talk about the fact that there are people in Texas waiting for a dead man to return to the place of his father's death? I mean, they have to be classified as a religion by now. So Mustafa is talking about the Q people. The Q.
Wait, can we not say them?
I don't know. I don't know what the YouTube gods allow anymore. I'm so terrified and emotionally terrorized by the YouTube algorithm.
Yeah, so we're gonna say it as QAnon, but please like this video as you're watching it. So because when we say these words, the YouTube algorithm punishes us, as like it suppresses the video. But we're gonna try to use these words so that it's more clear what we're talking about. But we need your help by sharing our videos and liking and leaving a comment so that it counters the fact that we're suffering from talking about all these things. Okay, so yeah, you're talking about QAnon. Yeah, and I believe that QAnon is a new religion. I do agree with that.
Yes.
I think it's a religion that is a mix of evangelical Christianity mixed with anti-Semitic conspiracies and some dose of satanic panic and Illuminati conspiracy theories, and also mixed with a little bit of the Red Scare, all of that together. And yeah, so it's a bit of a Frankenstein monster of a religion as a base, right? So it had evangelical Christianity as its base, and then the foundation of that was republicanism, and then it was anti-Semitic conspiracy theories and some other conspiracy theories like the Satanic Panic and the Illuminatis was the flavoring on top, mixed with the Red Scare, and that's what you get QAnon.
Yeah, I refer to QAnon as a big tent conspiracy theory, because it takes dozens, if not thousands, of conspiracy theories that were already existing and trying to stitch them all together. So in that way, it can attract a lot of different people because they have something that was originally like maybe one conspiracy theory that they kind of bought into that then draws them into the larger picture. But it's definitely a religion.
Vikram is saying, don't you think sometimes we might just call everything we don't like a religion? No, because I'm actually very mindful of that. Like, for example, I very much dislike communism, but unlike so many people, I don't call it a religion, right? To me, for something to be a religion, it needs to have belief in the supernatural in it. and it requires some form of traditions, custom and traditions, or some elements where you could recognize other members of it. Like it needs to have some form of rituals or customs plus the belief in supernatural. If you have those, the thing is that because the QAnon faith already had a base of evangelical Christianity in it, the customs and the rituals of that faith is already inherent within the QAnon religion, so it already has the customs and rituals, and also the belief in supernatural is very, very heavily present in the QAnon ideology. So I'm very comfortable in calling it a religion. But no, there are many things that I'm very much against that I do not call religion because it doesn't have those two elements. Like especially if it doesn't have the belief in supernatural in it, I would not call it a religion, even if it's a bad ideology.
Liberal Bong Hindu, great name, is asking, is Ilhan Omar introducing an Islamophobia bill in the United States? So I wasn't familiar with this, so I looked it up, and on October 21st, she announced the introducing the bill called the Combating Global Islamophobia Bill. Yes. It says Representatives Ilhan Omar and Jan Schakowsky introduced the Combating International Islamophobia Act, legislation to address the rise in incidents of Islamophobia worldwide. The bill requires special envoys, blah, blah. Okay, let's get to where it actually describes the issue. And then it talks about the staggering rise of incidents of violent Islamophobia recently worldwide, referencing the Uyghur genocide, the Rohingya genocide, crackdowns on Muslims in India and Sri Lanka, scapegoating of Muslim refugees that happened in America and other Muslims in Hungary and Poland, the Christchurch shooting, and lots of other examples. And it talks about the global problem of Islamophobia. I guess the requirements of it are to create a special envoy for monitoring and combating Islamophobia, including state-sponsored Islamophobic violence and impunity in the department's annual human rights record. The creation of the special envoy will help policymakers better understand the interconnected global problem of anti-Muslim bigotry.
Why couldn't you just call it that? Anti-Muslim bigotry. Like,
Yeah.
okay, God. Guys, like, so here's an issue. This is a problem. Anti-Muslim bigotry is a global problem that needs to be addressed. Okay, we would have however, if this is not just semantics. If you think like, oh my God, you're getting triggered over what is the definition. Okay, you're getting butthurt over not calling it the right thing. Okay, I understand how that looks, how that sounds. It might seem like we're getting hung over something that shouldn't matter. If we agree that anti-Muslim bigotry is a worldwide problem that needs to be addressed, Armin, Susanna, why would you care that they're calling it Islamophobia rather than anti-Muslim bigotry? Okay, because I think you would be more effective at addressing it if you call it anti-Muslim bigotry. Okay, because if you call it Islamophobia, then so many things that are criticism of ideas or insulting of ideas will now be, I mean, it would be part of actions that would be part of this category. You know what I mean? Like you're talking about Islamophobia, so all of a sudden, if we have like secular, like for example, if there is in Islam, in a country with a big Muslim population, if there is a push for getting rid of religion in schools, would that be Islamophobic? I mean, technically, it would be anti-Islam, right? If there are measures, if anti-segregation policies that is meant to like reduce the amount of brainwashing that, I mean, parents might do towards children. This is something that I think somebody like Ilhan Omar would support when it comes to Christian parents maybe brainwashing their children, and the state being involved in making sure that they're actually getting proper education instead of like some religious brainwashing. I think maybe Ilhan Omar would support that, but this would be categorized maybe as Islamophobic if these were, Muslim parents in a different country. right? If they want to like brainwash their children with religion instead of actual education, if we want to stop that, would that be Islamophobic? Like, and if given that a lot of insults of religion and criticizing of religion is also categorized as Islamophobic, when you label anti-Muslim bigotry as Islamophobic, then a lot of people would dismiss accusations of anti-Muslim bigotry because you're calling it Islamophobia, and people have seen what it gets labeled as Islamophobia. When we come and say like, "Hey, the Quran is violent," and somebody says that is Islamophobic, and now a lot of people associate labeling of something being Islamophobic as you criticizing the religion. Now, when you go and say like, "Oh, this, Armin like tearing apart the Quran, that's Islamophobic," okay, like, okay, well, that's not harming anybody, and now you're labeling putting people in concentration camps up, millions of people to a concentration camp, right? You're calling that Islamophobic as well. So you're calling drawing of Muhammad Islamophobic, and you're calling putting people in concentration camps as Islamophobic.
They're not comparable.
Don't you think like you're betraying the people that are being put in concentration camps if you are labeling them the same thing? You're labeling that action, that crime, the same thing that you would do when somebody's criticizing or insulting your religion? Like, don't you think that's a crime against them? Don't you think like people are going to dismiss your Islamophobia accusations when you're using it so loosely on so many harmless other things? That's why I'm saying that just call it. If you want to be effective at addressing oppression of Muslims, violence against Muslims, discrimination against Muslims, please label it anti-Muslim bigotry, and you would become a lot more effective at addressing that issue. Again, this is not, I know, again, this is not just semantics. This is not just like, oh, we're getting butthurt because you're not calling it the right thing. This is about being more effective in calling it anti-Muslim bigotry.
I couldn't agree more. You're doing what you do best, breaking these things down. Ren Miranda is asking, did you watch the Delhi government's hearing with Facebook India's people asking them about their role in the Delhi communal riots in 2020? No, I haven't watched this, but now I really want to. So thank you for bringing this.
Thank you for
reminding me.
Yes, thank you.
I also saw a question kind of related. I can't find it, but it was from Selva Kumar asking about if we're going to talk about the first gay justice being elected to the High Court in India. I think it was the Delhi High Court. I can't find the question. I don't know if we're talking about it on the news this week, maybe next week. Sabelotolatu is asking, are you familiar with Abby Martin and her work on Israel and Palestine conflicts? What are your thoughts on her and her views? I don't know her. Do you?
I should look at her. I know faces better than names. Maybe. I don't know. We'll see.
Mm-hmm.
No, I don't.
Okay.
Wait. Is that her? She's hot.
Wait. Now I gotta see.
I didn't expect that. Now I'm gonna check her work for sure. Wait, no. That was her younger. That was a long time.
Oh no, she's this girl who does the that what's it called? That show that we watch, like the Empire Watch.
Oh, is that her?
I think that's her.
Okay, we are very much against her views. Yes.
I think sometimes she has legitimate criticisms of some things the Israeli state does, but I'm skeptical of her because of her relationship with the Russian government.
That's right. No. These are the people that think everything could be explained by imperialism.
Yes.
Again, me and Susanna, like we criticize Israel's policies, we criticize U.S. policies, but we're not like what reductionists should we call empire bad reductionists? Everything bad ever happening must be the
that scary noise under your bed. Imperialism.
Yeah, feeling
your
an itch
shoes
in your
are
ass.
missing. Imperialism.
Yeah, like I think they really they have such hatred for United States and Israel that they cannot comprehend other sources of communist countries being the source, like a country like Iran doing anything wrong, communist countries being the source of their own problem. No, everything, like they always have to, everything has to be explained by somehow Israel, Europe, or um, United States. It's always their fault. Like there's like very little nuance, and like everything is black and white. Like there's no gray area for them.
Gation American is asking, what are your thoughts on Chinese doctor He Jiankui manipulating twins to be more HIV resistant but more susceptible to respiratory disease?
I
Disease.
can't.
I don't know about this, but depending on how this was conducted, this sounds like there could be serious ethical violations.
This seems like we need like an expert to talk about this, like or at least listen to an expert before we have an opinion about it, right?
As someone who works in research, I'm like, where's the IRB approval? I need to check this out.
We don't know. Yeah.
Looking. Does anyone know why Hajis, for those who don't know, it's meaning pilgrims at Mecca, why do they walk counterclockwise around Kaaba? Do you know this, Armin? Why counterclockwise?
I don't know, but now I'm curious what will happen if they go the other way around. Would that like end the world? Like, will that
reverse
open
Tawa?
a black like will that open a black hole? Like imagine like the secret to like imagine the entire secret to bringing the Mehdi back was to do it clockwise, right? Like imagine like somebody one day figures out, like finds a text like this is how you bring the Mehdi back. You go around the Kaaba clockwise instead of counterclockwise, and all of a sudden the Kaaba goes down, like gets sunk into a black hole, and it opens a portal, and the Mahdi just like ascends in midair because people figured out the secret. Like, and this should be a movie, and it doesn't require everybody to do a counterclockwise. It just requires one person, right?
Whoa.
One person doing the Hajj, and like there's like imagine like there's a movie and everybody's like looking, like somebody's like walking around the Kaaba and everybody's like looking at them weirdly, like why are you going this way? And he's like going against like, and then that's how the movie starts, and like you see the Kaaba like shaking and it going down, and then boom, it goes to the title of the movie. It doesn't show you the rest. That would be good.
That sounds awesome. Nick Kano. Hi, Nick. I know him. That's my friend. He's asking, how does the campaign to get back on Twitter going? So basically, we're still working on it. I actually spoke to our lawyers about it this morning. And you guys, our atheist community, can help us out by, if you go to the top of the description for this episode, you should see a link to a tweet. It would help us very much if you followed that link, copied and pasted the contents of that tweet, or made your own tweet where you tag Twitter support and nicely, politely explain to them that we have been incorrectly banned for provably false copyright claims. That would be very much appreciated. I think I'm going to get a petition going soon, as soon as I have some time.
That's good. Yeah.
And this is just a reminder to everyone that if you have questions for us, please tag Atheist Republic when you're asking your questions. It's a lot easier for us to find. Mir Jalal is asking, doesn't the Kyle Rittenhouse fiasco tell us that the left, with a capital L, in the United States is not really interested in facts to solve the race problem, but I guess motivated to make things a color issue? What do you think, Armin?
I think you can't speak about the left as if they're all the same person, right? Like, there are many people on the left and on the right that don't seem to be interested in what the actual facts are, but to just repeat what their tribe seems to be believing in as a way to solidify their membership in the tribe that they belong to, right? You support the things that makes you a cherished member, as a way for you to signal that this is my view. Please accept me in this community, okay? Rather than actually being interested in what the answers are. This is not a left thing. This is a left and right thing. Like you see many examples of this in the right as well. However, it's not all of the left. It's not all of the right. Like I don't know. Like Destiny is part of the left. He was pretty good at being consistent with looking at the facts when it comes to the Kyle Rittenhouse situation, right? I mean, we are part of the left, right? I think I still consider myself the left, right? Sis, do you still consider yourself the left, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, we from the
I
very
lied.
day.
That was Takia. No, I'm kidding. I am on the left.
No, I mean, I always from day one from Kyle Rittenhouse, I thought like I thought like it looks like I always said like it looked like self-defense to me, but I haven't investigated this, so I don't know, right? That was my position. Like to me, based on the very limited information that I have, and I'm saying, it looks like I would have done the same thing if people were coming at me like that, right? However, I don't have all the videos. I haven't spent hours researching the details. It might be not justified, right? And I was willing to change my view as soon as better information came out. And again, I'm also part of the left, so let's not like condemn the entire left or the entire right. Like we
But
could say,
I mean, we
I think the
cannot
better
kid
way is
ourselves. There
yes,
are a lot of people on the left, particularly
yeah.
those of a more progressive flavor, who are motivated to make this to shove a race issue into this.
Is
As
it
we-
not the more? Is it more than the right?
No,
Mhm.
like the right does this as well. This is, I mean, it's just such a crazy reflection of like American culture. It's really tough. I think what bothers me the most about certain leftist media figures as the trial has gotten underway and more facts have come forward, the way that they have refused to acknowledge the narratives that they were putting out in the beginning and like really be honest about like how they changed their mind. Vosh's video on Kyle Rittenhouse pissed me off so bad. It pissed me off so bad. I had to watch it in segments because I was so pissed off. I couldn't take it all at once. Like, he's like, I haven't watched any of the trial. So I have a baby brain right now. I have the mind of a babe. Like, I was like, not watching any of the trial like makes me somehow like have a better opinion on this because I'm free of judgment. But I'm actually not that interested in the case itself. Now I'm interested in how did this situation was this even allowed to happen? And I'm like, get off your high horse. Like, what kind of BS? When Howie was talking about in the beginning, I was like, oh, and I'm not acting like I'm some perfect commentator, right? I definitely say dumb stuff, and I probably change my mind about it later and don't properly hold myself accountable to how maybe I covered that previously in like a not so great way. I'm prone to that as well. But that was an instance where it was such a slap in the face of just how obvious it was. In the way that TYT, for example, has been covering the whole case has just been a travesty. Vikram is saying, oh, wait.
No. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Vikram, I just wanted to highlight that, but let's do this one.
Really quickly, our final thought is that in terms of how the right is acting about this situation, like the right is trying to lionize Kyle Rittenhouse, which is dumb. I think they wouldn't be doing that if there wasn't such a push to villainize him on the other hand, like members of Congress coming out within 24 hours and calling this kid a white supremacist, right? Like, but on the other hand, I see a lot of people across the aisle will say, honestly, what he did was like really stupid across the board. Like it was dumb, but it was self-defense, which I think is a very good middle ground that I'm comfortable with. But I want to get to this.
Oh, Vikram. No, Vikram, I'm sorry. I just I highlighted the next comment before I saw. Oh wait, where did it go? Now I can't find it.
Snubbed. I'm sorry, Vikram.
Oh, okay. We will answer and ask another question. We will answer that.
No,
Okay,
no,
this
no.
one.
But I
Okay.
want to get to this. So I actually
Yeah.
haven't seen this, so this will be my raw reaction.
Okay. Read it. Read the question.
Okay. Mia is asking, have you seen Mohammed Hijab's fiasco before the Chinese embassy in London? He protested for the right cause, but made a total clown show of it. So I haven't seen this. Guys, you are going to be, this is real. This is as raw as it gets. Okay. I'm so excited.
Okay. By the way, I don't know. I actually haven't seen this as well. I just saw like maybe people talking about it, right?
I need
But
popcorn. I need something to
yeah.
hold.
I just want to say, guys, I still support, like, we support the cause, like, we support them pressuring the Chinese government. You know what? Actually, the fact that we're making fun of Mohammed Hijab for doing what he did, let that be a way for us to bring more attention to the cause that they're supporting. Like the fact that they're pressuring the Chinese government. Like, what I'm trying to say is that us making fun of Mohammed Hijab, if we end up making fun of Mohammed Hijab for this, is not a dismissal of how important this cause is. Okay, we're not making light of the campaign they have against the Chinese government. That deserves attention, and in fact, we support Mohammed Hijab in his fight against the Chinese government and bringing attention to the plight of Muslims in China. Okay, the Uyghur Muslims in China. So thank you for that. However, this is supposed to be pure cringe, and we're gonna enjoy that together. Okay, this is good.
I'm so excited.
All right. Let's go a little bit back here.
Flag.
Do you have audio?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I have a flag that you can replace.
Oh wait. Okay, let's.
Oh.
Okay. Listen.
And we will not live or die until we become victorious in this war. Look at them now. Look at them looking at me. What are you looking at? My question is, what the hell are you looking at? You've taken your flag away. You've taken your flag away. The Chinese Communist flag.
Oh.
Oh my! You're taking your flag, the Chinese Communist flag. Okay, so you took the flag away. Okay.
Well, I have a flag that you can replace your flag with. Take this Uyghur flag, you sons of bitches! I tell you today!
And he's got a fanny pack on!
You have nothing at all to offer the world. Why? Because you have already incorporated a Marxist communist system. You've already...
What is this? Okay, so from all the excuses in the world that you could have for taking off your shirt, this was the most bizarre one that I could what? Like, you took your flag away. Yeah, and then he just goes on the rest of this entire thing without his shirt. Wait. Isn't this against Islam? Like, isn't he supposed to be covering his aura or whatever?
I thought the male aura is from the navel to the top of the knees, and his fanny pack is covering his navel.
You're right. That's why he has the fanny pack, because he's supposed to be covered Islamically. He's supposed to be covered from the navel down. So this is Islamic. Good job, Mohammed Hijab. I thought he was supposed to be fit. What happened? Like, he keeps bragging about working out and all. Like, does he think this is fit? Anyways, let's.
I mean, there could be a lot of muscle underneath. He's just not lean.
Yeah. See, this is what happens.
Look at that might. Look at the might of the Ummah in his body.
This is what happens when you think fitness is just about going to the gym but not having a proper diet. Okay, guys, having a proper diet is more important than going to the gym. Okay, when you go to the gym but don't eat right, this is the result.
Take this flag.
Hold on, 1 minute.
You've taken your flag away.
Read like Rosanna, like, this is not hijab. Mohammed Hijab, this is the opposite of it. Where's your hijab, Mohammed Hijab? What is this? I don't even understand the logic here. You taking your flag away? Well, I have a flag for you. Like this screams like I wanted an excuse to take off my shirt in public one day, and this gives me the opportunity. But guys, if you ever want to act manly and like alpha or something, make sure you don't have a fanny pack on, right? Is that like
That was just like the reveal of the fanny pack. I was like, because there's like it's the fanny pack it's really not manly.
I know, like at least wear it to the side, like push it to the side. That's more proper. I gotta
Taking your flag away, the Chinese Communist flag.
Look at this.
Well, I have a flag that you can replace your flag with.
Oh my god.
Take this Uyghur flag, you sons of bitches!
Oh god.
I tell you today!
I think he was expecting more of a response because he starts taking off his shirt and the crowd is kind of quiet. And he's like, you sons of bitches! And then people are like, Takbir!
I think this played in his head a lot better than what it looked like. Like I think like the way he was imagining this came out a lot more alpha, a lot more manly. Like, oh my god, like he's he feels like a warrior in this battle. Take off my take this. Like, but then when it happened, it was like, man, it didn't. Guys, here's nothing is more cringe than trying to be alpha, in my opinion. This is why Daniel Haireju also has been so cringely recently. Like, is this chat? Is this alpha? Are you acting like a beta? Like, if you're joking,
hearing Daniel Hakikaju talk about soy boys, I'm like, this doesn't sound right coming out of your mouth.
No, like, guys, okay, so if you are joking about being alpha, like if you're like not actually trying to be alpha, but like making fun of this whole alpha beta thing, I think then it's fine for you to be like, oh, look at me, I'm being alpha. And it's like, you don't really mean it. You're not trying to be alpha. You're just like making fun of it, right? Or like, like, oh, this is so beta, but you don't actually believe in this alpha beta bull crap. And you're just like joking around with somebody, right? That's fine. But if you're actually trying to be like a manly man, like, oh my God, look at me being so alpha, that is so cringe. I don't even know if there's anything more cringy than people attempting to become, looking and sounding and acting more manly. Like, it's so pathetic. If there was anything that could be described as beta, is men trying to be alpha. That is the most beta thing. If there is anything that could be described as beta, is attempting to be alpha.
Yeah, like what's supposed to make a man alpha is like to lead, protect, and provide. Like if you do those things, it speaks for itself through your actions, your character, and the way you hold yourself. You don't need to dress it up. Although, as someone who does enjoy wrestling, I enjoy like professional amateur wrestling. Like I did appreciate the theater of this, but you need it to be in the context of that sort of performance for it to be received well. I mean, like just a few weeks ago, I was at a wrestling show at an abandoned train station and I was losing my mind.
The crowd needs to also be trained and expecting, like knowing what to do. Like this was like just felt very flat. Do you think he shaved his chest preparing for this?
I think you're right.
I don't.
Right.
I think he was planning this. I don't think Mohammed Ejab is like a hairless man. And I don't know. I think it doesn't look like he trimmed. Sometimes you just trim with the machine just because it's just get too bushy. He just looks like he completely shaved it off. He just wanted to look like a completely hairless.
He wanted to show that muscle definition as much as he could.
Yeah. Do you think he's wearing the fanny pack because he's conscious about the fact that he has a giant belly? He just wanted to cover that part. I think that's the purpose of the fanny pack, is that
Well, and it's also covering his aura, his temptation.
Yes. No, but I think I think he unintentionally became more Islamic because he's covering his below his navel. But I think I'm guessing the actual intention is like he looks at himself in the mirror and he's like he wants to be like this muscular dude that goes to the gym and he's strong, like he acts like that, always like being alpha and everything. But he looks at himself and he sees like his belly makes himself feel insecure, and I think that's why he's covering covering it with a fanny pack. That's my guess. I think.
That's okay.
That's okay. Oh, Mirjala
No
is saying
body
Arabs are in that hair. No, I'm not shaming him. I think I'm guessing that maybe he's insecure about it. I'm like, I mean,
Well, if they're
actually,
not that
okay.
bad.
If somebody is like fat, I'm not body shaming them. I'm health shaming them. There's a difference. Health shaming them. Okay, guys, if you are fat, it's more important to get rid of the fat than gaining the muscle. Okay. Anyways, it's a health thing. Right?
I like how you just took this opportunity to turn it into like a health advice section.
Yeah, it's
which was to be
objectively true.
expected.
Yeah, which is to be expected. That's what I do. Anyways,
Dang,
Wait,
I had so much fun on the show today.
Yeah. Okay. We should go. Nothing wrong with having a little bit of a belly. Have you guys seen World's Strongest Man?
I was talking to Armin about this.
Guys, the world's strongest men do not live a healthy life.
No.
They do okay, so strength and health are not always the same thing. The world's strongest men obviously misuse hormones and steroids and other things to become the world's strongest man. They do not live healthy lives. Okay, bodybuilders also take different kind of hormones and other supplements, and they also do not live healthy lives. Okay, so don't think like the strongest men, because they're the strongest, that means what they're doing is the healthiest thing to do. It's definitely not. Okay, it's been scientifically proven beyond reasonable doubt that if you lose fat, okay, to a certain level, it's healthier. Okay, you live a healthier, longer, better quality life if you lose fat, unless you are at 10% body fat percentage or 10 to 15 body fat percentage. Then you're not going to see much better returns on losing fat. In fact, if you go below 8%, now losing fat is actually becoming unhealthy. Okay, so there is such a thing as being too shredded. Okay, but I'm suspecting none of you, any of us, is at the point of worrying about losing too much fat. Okay, I could almost guarantee that there's nobody here in the live chat or in the stream that has reached 8% body fat percentage. So every single one of us here could get some benefit from losing some fat. Okay, so there's that.
Yeah, but the world's strongest men are so wide and fat because they need to get a really low center of gravity because of the sheer enormity of the weights that they're trying to push above their body and do all this stuff with. Really interesting stuff that they do, but yeah, it's extreme. And by the way, wait, I want to say something. Pashtu ethno-nationalist said in a comment that I hate them because of their name. No, I don't hate you, but you can't blame me when you say that you're an ethno-nationalist. That it puts me on edge, okay? But I don't hate you. You actually have interesting comments.
Ghostman is saying, Armin, stop attacking me. I'm not attacking you. I'm just telling you what the data shows, okay? If you are a smoker and I say smoking is unhealthy, I'm not attacking you for smoking. I'm just telling you what the facts are. And then you could decide whatever you want with it, but it's just important to know that, like, hey guys, if I tell you being fat is unhealthy, okay, and you know that information and you still decide to be fat, that's okay. That's your decision, as long as you have all the correct information. Okay, this is not an attack on fat people. This is just giving you all the information that is available, and then you could make whatever decision with the information available to you that you want. Like, this is not an attack. This is just
If
fat.
anything, it's loving promotion of one's own well-being.
Oh wait, I have to actually clarify. When I said 8% marriage others saying Susanna is probably 8% body fat. No, actually, the body fat percentages I mentioned were for men. Women are on average have a lot more high body fat percentage, especially because of boobs, right? So
I could lose a pound.
no, like even the most shredded women are much higher in body fat than the most shredded men, because women have, they have fat in their boobs, so, and other places. Anyways, 8% for women body fat percentage, I think, would be dead. Like, like 3 for men, 3% below 3% body fat would be dead. For women, I don't
But
know.
also, we are not health experts. Okay, we give all the disclaimers.
We're
Armin.
not an expert, but every single expert and every single information out there will tell you that being fat is not healthy.
Facts.
Facts, yes. Yeah, also this one is true too. Passionate and Asher is saying this is actually another reason. World's strongest man contestants are fat because you need to eat a massive calorie surplus to hold onto that amount of muscle. That's also very true. You gain, when it comes to becoming the strongest, you gain nothing from losing fat. Okay, nothing from losing that much fat. Okay, if you're a bodybuilder, the aesthetics matter, so you gain a lot for being shredded. If you're trying to be the world's strongest man, there's no reason for you to withhold eating. Okay, I mean, it's unhealthy, but if you're trying to be the strongest, you have to eat as much as you possibly can. It makes no sense for you to not to eat. Again, that's not the healthiest thing to do, though. Anyways, we should go.
So, guys, thank you for joining us this week. I had so much fun today. If we didn't get to your question, consider becoming a patron. You can support us, again, for as little as $1 a month. Link in the description below, because then we are contractually obligated to answer your question, and we can do it even if you can't attend live, because maybe you're asleep if your time zone. And also tune into our news show in 2 days. We have lots of big, massive news stories to talk about, and a major cause for celebration in the atheist community and the Atheist Republic community specifically. Huge news. So please tune in on Saturday or Sunday, depending on your time zone, for the news. It'll be a lot of fun. And I won't be here at the Q&A next week because it's Thanksgiving in America. But Armin will be here. And I will miss you guys. Yeah. But until then, have a good evening.
Make sure you like the stream before you go. Make sure, look what people are saying. Pashtun Ethanash is saying great show. Ghost Bunny saying this was a good stream. Vikram is saying this was fun. Music Guy is saying thanks for answering our questions, Armin and Susie. Thank you guys. Please make sure you like the stream. It really helps us grow. It doesn't cost you anything, and it helps our channel grow. So please make sure you do that before. And somebody's saying Armin is a liar. Okay, what did I lie about? But that's okay. Sure.
Also Susanna is more of a liar because he hurts my feelings sometimes. I'm kidding. Armin is actually the most honest person I know. Like, that's a fact.
All right. Okay. All right, guys. Thank you, everyone, and talk to you later.
Bye.
Bye.